Hey friends, and welcome back to the Alex Makes VR podcast. Today's episode is going to be super off the cuff, just you and me. Grab a cup of tea, let's have a chat. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about in this episode, but the truth of the matter is that when this episode goes live at 6 a.m. on Monday, the 14th of September 2020, I will be in the thick of probably one of the most technically comprehensive and innovative, boundary-pushing client projects I have ever worked on. I'm directing a volumetric VR project, a branch narrative volumetric project. For those of you who don't know what that means, volumetric video is a capture format. Just like 360 video is the way that you capture something and then you could view it back in a VR headset, or you could view it on a mobile desktop. Volumetric video is a capture technology, which is basically the absolute opposite to 360 video. If you think of 360 video as you place the camera in the center, and because it's got lenses all over the camera body, it captures the whole scene. So it's recording inside out, isn't it? You put the camera in the middle, records everything around it. Volumetric video is the absolute opposite. Your performers stand in the center of a totally green screened studio stage, a massive stage, and around that stage are 106 cameras, both, I think it's infrared and RGB cameras, that are capturing the action simultaneously. 106 cameras, all capturing the action. And the reason, the reason why you would film this way and the reason why we're doing it is because what that does is obviously it records your performer from every single angle, from above, from below, from the side upwards, from the side downwards, literally everywhere. The whole studio, it's a fully spherical studio. And when I go for a take, when I shout action, like that stage will be completely closed off. So it's a fully round green screen studio with cameras all around. It's quite impressive. If you've not been following me on Instagram, I've got some photos on there. I'm putting them on my Instagram stories at the moment, but maybe by the time you are listening to this, it will be a highlight or something like that talking about it. But anyway, all this to say, it's been a real learning experience for me, actually. It's been a real honor, genuinely, to be writing and directing a project like this, because it really is pushing the boundaries. It's over a 20-minute long branch narrative piece, which for something like volumetric video, because it's such a new and intense and technically comprehensive medium to capture in, oftentimes you will have maybe 2 to 5 minutes. To give you an idea, the studio that we're filming at, they filmed certain scenes for Bohemian Rhapsody. How do you even say that? Rhapsody? I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche. Okay, right, I'm going to stop that because you did not come here for singing. They filmed certain scenes of that. And then what that allowed them to do is, because the scene, I don't know which scenes it was, but because those scenes were captured from every single angle, then a director, the director of that film, can go in and choose exactly the camera movement that they want. One of the most prolific movies, I guess, to ever use volumetric video that I know of anyway is The Matrix. For those of you who know that film, obviously there's these iconic fight scenes where Neo is bending backwards and it seems impossible, and the camera seems to be spinning around him, but he's frozen, and you're like, wow, has that actor just got the most incredible still, how is that happening? How is he on a wire? Is he just staying still, and they've just made it look as if he's not breathing, because it's a perfectly still scene, but it's it goes the cameras go right all the way around. So that is one, from my knowledge anyway, that's one of the earliest, most famous cases of volumetric video, because what that was I don't know how many cameras they used for that shot in particular, but that was basically just a ring of cameras around the action that was capturing it from every angle at the same time. So that in post-production, they could go in there and they could jump from camera to give the illusion of going around really fast. But technically that is literally the same frame just from 100 different angles. So that's how it's kind of used in traditional, and still to this day, that's often how they use volumetric video for those kind of use cases. But in our case, the reason we're doing it like this is because when you bring volumetric video into a VR headset, what that allows you to do is it allows you to fully interact with the environment. So whereas 360 is obviously very static, it's very... someone puts on a headset and they can look around them, but they can't move back and forward. They can't get closer to the characters. They can't move away from the characters. They have no control over their own kind of sense of space. Whereas with volumetric video, because you've captured an actor from all angles, you now have a fully 3D model of that person. So now you could put those actors in the center of a room and you could have people walking all the way around the scene, and those actors wouldn't move. They would still be performing in exactly the same place. But you all of a sudden have agency. When we talk about this idea of in VR, the director almost becomes irrelevant, like in terms of a traditional film director, because traditional film director is choosing those frames, those sequence of frames that pull together to make an experience really, cinematic and make you feel a certain way. With VR, obviously, the audience becomes the director in a sense. All you can do as a director is, make sure the action's as good as it can be, choose the locations. Like, you obviously want to give some kind of structure, and you would hope that they would follow a certain path, but you have to account for the fact that they might not. And so much of VR is about giving the audience the freedom to explore. And with volumetric video, that's taken to a whole new level where you can actually fully interact. If I want to be close to that action, if I want to be intimate with those characters, I can get up close. If I want to pull back and walk away because actually, it's a really intimate scene, it actually feels a bit strange to be too close to them, I can pull right back. It also accounts for things like, if you're a 6'2" man experiencing something in a headset and the same experience is being experienced simultaneously by a 5'2" woman in a headset. When you shoot in 360, obviously the height of the camera is fixed point, so the perspective of the camera is fixed point. Whereas all of a sudden, when you're working in what we call a 6 degrees of freedom environment, aka, you don't only get to look around, but you can also move up and down and forward and back, and you've got control over all of the space now. All of a sudden, even if you're watching the same scene and you're both sat down, that's going to feel much more natural for you if you're a 6'2" man and a 5'2" woman, because the camera positioning will adjust to your height. So that's quite an interesting thing to think about. It's been a really interesting process because this is the first volumetric project that I've ever directed. And it's been a really interesting process kind of thinking about all these different things. And I did a previous episode about learning how creative decisions can blow your VR budgets. And this is that project where just writing in one simple detail was going to cost over 30 grand. And that's because I've never worked in this medium before. I had no idea what some of the implications would be because I didn't know the technical setup. And because it's such a comprehensive setup, it's really interesting for me as a director, but also as a total tech nerd, to go in there and be fascinating. So, when I've written in this action for this actor, even yesterday, again, I shouldn't probably be sharing too many details, but some things even now that I've written into the script, they're just not technically possible, because when we got on the stage to start blocking everything out, it's just not possible anymore because of the nature of the filming. And that's so interesting to me. And I love this state of learning. I feel like that's one of my takeaways from this experience has been I preach the whole don't be scared to fail and always be learning and don't judge yourself. And in fact, don't judge yourself. I don't know whether I've done a whole episode on that yet, but if not, I might make that the next episode. Having that open mind of wanting to be challenged, wanting to learn new things is so important, especially when you're working in a medium like ours, where things are changing so rapidly. It's so important for you to have that beginner's mindset at all times. But I personally haven't, not in the VR world, I have with like social media and like doing these podcasts and things, gone back to being a beginner and having to learn the ropes. But with VR, because I've done the same kind of thing for a while now, I haven't been challenged to the same extent that I have been on this project. And that has been really, really interesting. So anyway, I've got to run now. I just wanted to, I didn't want to miss my upload day. I really want to remain consistent. We always talk about this, don't we? The whole idea of action-based goals over results-based goals. And my action is to upload 3 podcasts a week, and I was not going to miss that date. So it's been kind of nice just rambling about this, and I guess the subject of this episode here live, titling it right now, will probably be something along the lines of the difference between 360 video and volumetric video. I had no idea that's what I was going to talk about, but this is the thing that I really love about this idea of action-based goals. Like, this episode might not have been your cup of tea. Maybe you've come here expecting something a bit more structured, like some of my other episodes. But I'm sure a lot of you have found this quite interesting as well, because as I'm learning, I want to continue to share that with you guys, and hopefully that helps you in your practices. And I think volumetric video for now is obviously it's still very new, and it's very expensive, and it's very it's unobtainable for 99.9% of people. Like, for example, I wouldn't be doing my own personal projects in volumetric because I just wouldn't in a million years have the money to. But this kind of technology will become more commonplace. It will become cheaper. There are apps that allow you to do, very basic forms of volumetric video with your iPhone, like not necessarily full volumetric video capture, but even just like scanning a person and having that person be a 3D character. You can do that with your phone now. There's apps for that. And so if this is interesting, if this kind of idea of space and having all those angles covered and this idea of 3D, kind of fully realised 3D performances has triggered something for you and thought, oh, that's actually a really interesting idea for something I wanted to do, then maybe look into that. Maybe look at those kind of rough and ready solutions that are available right now that don't cost a lot of money. But just keep in mind that, in the next 5-10 years, something like volumetric video will probably be really commonplace. It wouldn't surprise me if that becomes like a really popular form of capture. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope this week's worth of episodes are probably going to be a little bit scatty because I am in the thick of it right now. And I just want you to know that I really love bringing you along for this journey. It makes it even more worthwhile. Like, I really geek out and love like learning these things and doing these projects, but it makes it even better to be able to share this with you. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you've got a subject or a question for a future episode that you want me to cover, or you just found this interesting, please let me know on social media. My handle is @AlexMakesVR on Instagram and Twitter. I also put out a really regular newsletter 3 times a week at the moment, with the insider tips and tricks of things that I'm learning and just general motivational stuff and business related things for us in the VR industry. I put that out. You can sign up for it at alexmakesvr.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe or follow on the podcast app that you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review if you're on Apple. And that's it for now. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and I'll speak to you again very soon.